Welcome to the Frugal Philosopher, where we explore the timeless intersection of money, wisdom, and intentional living. Today, we're diving deep into a subject that's often misunderstood but holds immense power when used wisely. How the rich use debt to grow wealth, and how you can too. For most people, debt feels like a trap. It's the credit card bill you dread seeing each month, the car loan that hangs over your head, or the student debt that follows you long after graduation. But for the wealthy, debt is something entirely different. It's a tool, it's leverage, it's strategy, it's freedom. This isn't financial wizardry reserved only for the elite. It's a difference in how debt is approached, understood, and applied. The truth is, wealthy people don't fear debt, they manage it. They don't run from loans, they use them to create opportunity. Let's take a moment to redefine debt in our minds. Bad debt is what you take on to buy things that don't generate income. Fancy gadgets, luxury clothes, or vacations you can't afford. Good debt, on the other hand, is used to acquire income-producing assets. This might be real estate, a business, or even education that directly increases your earning power. Now, let's imagine this. You have $100,000 saved. You could use that money to buy a house outright and rent it for $1,000 a month. That's straightforward and safe. But what if instead you use that $100,000 as down payments on 4 properties, each worth $250,000, using mortgage loans to cover the rest? Now you've leveraged that capital to control $1 million in assets. If each property appreciates and brings in rental income, your returns are multiplied significantly, all because of leverage. This is how the wealthy think. They don't just look at what they can buy, they think about how they can control and grow assets with the least amount of capital. And yes, it involves risk, but it's calculated risk, managed with knowledge, strategy, and a deep understanding of how money works. Robert Kiyosaki, in his book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, makes a clear distinction between assets and liabilities. He stresses that the rich buy assets and the poor and middle class acquire liabilities they think are assets. A house you live in, for example, isn't an asset if it doesn't bring in cash flow, but a rental property is. And the key to acquiring more assets? Using other people's money, primarily through smart debt. Let's break down how the rich actually use debt. First, they borrow to invest, not consume. This is the golden rule. Whether it's real estate, a startup, or a stock portfolio, the rich use debt to purchase things that will grow in value or produce income. This means their debt is working for them, not against them. Second, they structure their debt carefully. They choose low-interest, tax-deductible, long-term debt when possible. For example, mortgage interest is often tax-deductible, and long-term fixed rates allow them to plan well into the future without surprises. Third, they use debt to scale. A single profitable business might be great, but the wealthy think bigger. They reinvest profits and borrow to expand operations, open new locations, or enter new markets. This kind of strategic growth wouldn't be possible if they relied only on cash. Fourth, they borrow against assets instead of selling them. This allows them to access liquidity without giving up ownership or triggering capital gains taxes. For example, borrowing against a stock portfolio or home equity is a common way to access cash while keeping investments intact. Let's explore some practical examples. Real estate is one of the most common ways the rich use debt. Imagine you buy a rental property with 20% down and take a mortgage for the rest. The tenant's rent pays the mortgage, taxes, and maintenance. Over time, the property appreciates, the loan gets paid down, and your equity increases. All of this happened while someone else paid the bill. That's the power of using debt strategically. Now let's look at business. Many entrepreneurs start with borrowed money. Maybe it's a small business loan or a line of credit. They use that to buy inventory, market their products, or hire help. If their business plan is sound, that debt leads to higher revenue and eventual profits. It's an investment, not an expense. Some wealthy individuals also use debt recycling, a strategy more common in places like Australia. It involves using borrowed funds to pay off non-deductible debt, like a home mortgage, and replacing it with deductible investment debt. Over time, they convert bad debt into good debt, while building an investment portfolio that pays dividends. Another underappreciated strategy is infinite banking. This is where individuals use whole life insurance policies to build cash value and borrow against it. The borrowed money can be reinvested and the policy continues to grow. It's a way to become your own bank, controlling both the borrowing and repayment terms. And then there's the use of margin loans, borrowing against a stock portfolio. This is more advanced and comes with greater risk, especially in volatile markets. But done wisely, it allows access to capital without selling shares. For example, if your portfolio grows steadily, a margin loan at 3 to 4% interest might allow you to invest in another opportunity that yields 8 to 10%. That's a positive spread. Of course, none of this is without risk. The key difference is that the wealthy approach debt with strategy and discipline. They don't borrow impulsively. They plan, analyze, and measure outcomes. They understand cash flow, interest rates, amortization, tax implications, and exit strategies. Let's take a moment to talk about mindset. This is just as important as the mechanics. Most people fear debt because they associate it with failure or stress. And that fear isn't unfounded, especially if you've experienced the negative effects of debt. But fear without understanding leads to paralysis. The wealthy, by contrast, see debt as a form of control. When used responsibly, debt allows them to control more assets, earn more income, and build more equity. It's not about showing off or taking wild risks. It's about using every tool available to grow strategically. Here's a critical mindset shift. Stop thinking of debt as money you owe. Start thinking of it as money you manage. That shift puts you in the driver's seat. Now let's talk about how you, regardless of where you're starting from, can begin to use debt to grow wealth. Step 1. Clean up bad debt. Start by listing all your debts, their interest rates, and their monthly payments. Focus on paying off high-interest consumer debt first. That's your foundation. Step 2. Build your credit. Your credit score affects the interest rates and loan terms you'll qualify for. Pay on time, keep credit utilization low, and avoid unnecessary inquiries. This will set you up for better borrowing opportunities. Step 3. Define your wealth-building goal. What are you borrowing for? A rental property? A business? A skill that increases your income? Be clear. Debt without a purpose is dangerous. Step 4. Run the numbers. Every debt decision should come with a spreadsheet. What's your expected return? What's the cost of borrowing? What's the break-even point? Build a margin of safety into your assumptions. Step 5. Start small. You don't need to buy an apartment complex or launch a 7-figure business on day one. Maybe it's a small rental unit. Maybe it's a service business with low overhead. Maybe it's investing in a course that boosts your skills. Step 6. Protect yourself. Have insurance. Build an emergency fund. Diversify your income. The goal is not just to use debt, but to use it in a way that increases resilience. Step 7. Track your progress. Review your numbers monthly. How is the asset performing? Is it cash flow positive? Are you hitting your milestones? Adjust your plan as needed. Step 8. Reinvest your gains. As your asset grows or produces income, use that capital to pay down debt or acquire new assets. This creates a snowball effect. Debt used wisely can compound your growth. Step 9. Stay humble and learn. Read books like The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, Unshakable by Tony Robbins, or Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. Surround yourself with people who understand money. Keep learning. Step 10. Teach others. Share your journey, whether you're successful or still figuring it out. Sharing helps reinforce what you've learned and contributes to the financial literacy of your community. Let's close with some final wisdom. Debt is not inherently good or bad. It's neutral. Its impact depends entirely on how it's used. When tied to consumption, it erodes wealth. When tied to production and growth, it can multiply wealth. The key is discipline, education, and intention. Wealthy people don't become wealthy by accident. They study money, they respect it, and they use every tool available, including debt, to build lives of freedom and purpose. So ask yourself, what kind of debt are you carrying? What kind of mindset are you bringing to your financial decisions? Are you using debt as a lever, or is it using you? If this video gave you something to think about, if it challenged your beliefs or opened a new perspective, hit the like button and share it. Let's spread real financial wisdom, not hype, not fear, but practical insight. Drop a comment and tell me, Have you used debt strategically before? Are you planning to? What's your biggest takeaway from this video? And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into financial literacy, personal growth, and timeless strategies for living well.